بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. One of the ulama of this period is the late Sheikh Kulayni Radwanullah Ta'ala alayh, who died in 329, the year that major occultation started. So he lived during minor occultation. His full name is Muhammad ibn Ya'qub ibn Ishaq. So his father was Ya'qub, his grandfather was Ishaq, and he was from the city of Ray, where Hazrat Abdul Azim is buried now. So he's known as Razi, means he's from Ray, and also Kulayni. This is like another title for him. Sorry. He is one of our greatest fuqaha and muhaddithin in the whole history of the Shia, and it is said that he was the first person to be called as Thiqatul Islam. Nowadays, of course, there is different way of using this title. So in the Hawza, when someone enters the Hawza, after a few years of study, before becoming Hujjatul Islam, they call him Thiqatul Islam. So first is Thiqatul Islam, then is Hujjatul Islam, then is Hujjatul Islam wal Muslimin, then is Ayatullah, and then is Ayatullah al-Uzma for Maraj. But in the past, Thiqatul Islam was used for very outstanding scholars. It was more closer to the literal meaning of thiqah. Like when Imam Hussein alayhi salam sent Muslim ibn Aqil, he said thiqati, means someone who is trusted, someone you can rely on. So he is thiqatul Islam Kulayni, means he is someone that for Islam he was reliable, meaning religion can rely on it, or people for understanding Islam can rely on him. We don't know when exactly he was born, but we know that he was born in a village around the city of Ray. As I said before to you, Ray was the main city, Tehran was just a village outside, in the outskirts, that people used to go in summer because it was cooler near mountains. Now it's quite opposite. Now Tehran is massive and Ray is smaller. So Ray was a very important city, and he was born in a village outside the city of Ray. He traveled to different cities, and in particular he went to Qom and benefited from teachers in different cities, including Qom. He had about 35 teachers. They're not all at the same level, but he benefited from 35 teachers. This includes people like Ali ibn Ibrahim al-Qummi, many times in Kafi he starts his hadith with an Ali ibn Ibrahim, an Abi. So Ali ibn Ibrahim was son of Ibrahim ibn Hashim, who was himself a muhaddith, but he was like Sheikh of the Sheikh for Kulayni, teacher of teacher. So Ali ibn Ibrahim, as you know, has also tafsir, which is known as Tafsir Ali ibn Ibrahim, which is hadith-based hadith, tafsir. Tafsir which is based on hadith, Tafsir al-Ribai. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa al-Ash'ari al-Qummi, another teacher of him. Ahmad ibn Idris al-Qummi. You remember we talked sometime about significance of the city of Qom and how the narrators of hadith of Ahlul Bayt from very beginning they were there, and how careful they were. If they knew someone is not careful in narrating hadith, they would, ask him to change his style, and otherwise maybe ask him to leave the city of Qom. Because it had to be a place for authentic teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Himyari is another teacher of Kulayni. One of our 4 major collections of hadith, we call Kutub Arba'in, one of them belongs to Sheikh Kulayni. Before these collections, there were smaller collections which were not very comprehensive. They were called Asl. Asl means principle. There were 400 of them. Usul Arba'mi'ah. There were 400 collections of the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Sheikh Kulayni, Sheikh Tusi, Sheikh Saduq, they had access to all or most of them. But they brought them together, they classified them, organized them. Unfortunately, many of those 400 collections are no longer available, except through these books. So alhamdulillah, they managed to collect them, otherwise we would have lost a lot. Still, some of them are available. So, one of the 4 major collections of hadith belongs to Sheikh Kulayni, Rizwanullah Ta'ala. Now you realize how much we owe him for preserving 16,199 hadiths for us, organizing, selecting these hadiths, documenting the chain of the narrators. Al-Kafi fi ulum ad-din. Al-Kafi means what is adequate. One of the brothers doesn't drink coffee and tea, so when we were coming back from the retreat last year, I said, do you like coffee? He said, no, I don't like coffee. I said, there is one coffee that I'm certainly very like. He said, what? I said, coffee by Sheikh Kulayni. That is the coffee you cannot resist. So, al-kafi, which means what is sufficient, what is adequate. Fi ulum ad-din, in sciences of religion. The first part is Usulul Kafi, which is nowadays published normally in 4 volumes. Furu'ul Kafi, which is 5 volumes. And Rawdatul Kafi, 1 volume. Even during his life, Sheikh Kulayni became famous, and people were very impressed by his taqwa, honesty, comprehensive knowledge, and he was a person that people used to refer. He lived during the time of 4 deputies of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif, because He was there in the time of Ghaybat al-Suqra. But because those four were responsible for other issues, and also they were very much controlled and checked, Sheikh Kulayni was more responsible for educating people and answering to their religious inquiries, etc. Unless there was something that they, people had to send it to Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. He died in the city of Baghdad in 70. After he reached the age of 70, he died, he passed away. You see also some pictures here. For example, you see Al-Kafi, which is Usul al-Kafi, 4 volumes. You see a stamp which was made in Iran in memory of 1100 passing his demise, and his tomb. The next person is Farabi, that most of people have considered him as Shia, and some people have raised doubts, but it seems not very serious. Sorry, can you follow me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I wanted to move that. Okay. Muhammad ibn Tarkhan, known as Farabi, kunya was Abu Nasr Farabi. So he was born in the year 259. Just to have dates, to compare, in the year 255, Imam Mahdi was born. Ajjalallahu ta'ala fajr. In the year 260, Ghayba started. So he was born when Imam Mahdi was 4 years old, 1 year before Ghayba, before Imam Askari was killed. In a place which is now in Kazakhstan, but used to be part of Iran, near the city, the outskirts of the city of Farabi. It is said that he was a person who was very much into ascetic life and very much not mixing with people, using for opportunity to think and study and write. Normally he was going outside city, finding a garden or a river to stay there away from people and just study and think and write. He studied fiqh, hadith, tafsir, Quran, and then he went to Baghdad and he learned different sciences like logic, for example, from Matta ibn Yunus. He learned from Yuhanna ibn Haylan and other people. It is interesting that many of his teachers were Christians when he wanted to learn some of the subjects like logic, maybe musiqa, music, mathematics. He was not restricting himself to only Muslim scientists. He was using different teachers. In Islamic theory of education, I have said that Islamically, we should be not hesitant to learn from whoever has some knowledge to offer, but this is for the people who are able to discern. Because if you are not able to discern, then maybe you want to learn something good, but then you will be influenced by that person. That's But if you are a mature, educated person, if you are a scholar, for example, or close to becoming a scholar, then you can learn from different people. In the year 330, he went to Egypt. Then in 334, he went to Halab. I am very interested and amazed that these people, more than 1,000, more than 1,100 years ago, used to travel and, study in different countries. I don't know how was the situation of means of transport. Of course, maybe it was more difficult, but it seems this idea that we have today, getting visa, residence permit, being in foreign country, maybe it didn't exist at that time. Maybe they were more advanced than us. We are more partitioned, unfortunately, today. There are lots of limitations for people who want to go everywhere, meet people, study. But these people, few years in Iran, few years in, I don't know, Egypt, then he went to Sham. In the year 334, he went to Halab. Hello?
Salam alaikum, Sheikhna.
Salam alaikum. Again crashed?
We suddenly lost connection this time.
Okay. I will restart them. Sorry for that.
No problem. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sorry.
No problem. Sorry for...
How much you could hear?
You were saying about how you were surprised how people could travel at that time. Maybe there was no visas.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so. Yeah, so nowadays it's very difficult, these borders and partitioning and lots of restrictions, regulations. But in the past they could find teachers somewhere and go and study with them. Sunni, Shia, Christians, So he learned in Baghdad from people like Matta ibn Yunus. Then he went to Harran in Turkey, today is part of Turkey. He learned there logic, mantiq from Yuhanna ibn Haylan. Then he went to Baghdad and continued there again. And people were gathering around him to learn from him. Then in 330 he went to Egypt. In 334 he migrated to Halab in Sham. You remember we talked about Buwayhid, Sayf-ud-Dawla, Hamdani. So at his time he was inviting scholars, scientists to go there. So he went to Halab. And he was very much honored by Sayf-ud-Dawla Hamdani. And when Sayf-ud-Dawla conquered Damascus, he went with him, and he was there up to 339, and he died in 339. He is considered as one of the great philosophers and also one of the great logicians. They call him Mu'allim al-Thani, the second teacher after Aristotle. Normally this is a title for someone who has expertise in different fields. And also he was in particular very specialized in classification of the sciences. At that time it's very important. You needed to be very familiar with different sciences of the world at that time, and then organize them. So he had this. Inshallah, we will talk about it a little bit later. In philosophy, he was Shi'i, he was peripatetic. So he's like someone who followed the tradition of Aristotle. Later, Ibn Sina also had the same approach. Ibn Sina says something very interesting. Ibn Sina learned many things by himself. But he says he studied metaphysics by Aristotle 40 times, but could not grasp it. Then he found commentary of Farabi on metaphysics by Aristotle, and then he understood. This shows that how advanced was Farabi. That something so difficult like metaphysics of Aristotle, different culture, different language, he managed to understand and explain in the way that convinced someone like Ibn Sina. He has different books like Ara'u Ahl al-Madinat al-Fadila. We will talk about his idea of al-Madinat al-Fadila later. Ihsa'u al-Ulum, Al-Jam' Bayna Ra'yay al-Hakimain, where he tries to reconcile between the ideas of Plato and Aristotle. Al-Musiqa al-Kabir, Al-Mantiqiyat, Al-Siyasat al-Madaniyya, Al-Tanbih ala Sabil al-Sa'ada, Fusul Muntaza'a, and other things. In Ihsa'ul Ulum, which means to exhaust, to include comprehensively all the sciences, he made all the sciences organized under 8 categories. Number 1, sciences which relate to language, like Sarf and Nahv and Balagha, etc. Number 2, sciences which relate to Mantiq. Number 3, sciences which are related to math, whether it is hisab, hendese, geometry, even music, because music is very much related to math, astronomy, and ilmul manazir, which was something very much part of physics today, about the light and how things can be seen. Ilmul athqal, how you can move heavy things. Ilmul hiyal, about skills and industries like architect or how to make weapon. And then natural sciences, then divine sciences, which talk about metaphysics and immaterial beings, etc. And then ilm madani, which is about akhlaq and how to run societies. Ilmul fiqh, ilmul kalam. These are different things that he listed, 8 different categories. This was about ihsa'ul ulum, about classification. About mantiq, he had 48 books and essays on mantiq, on logic. One of things for which Farabi is very well known is his ideas about society, politics, and Ethiopia, Madinatul Fadila. And Madinatul Fadila is the ideal society. Many philosophers, thought about this. What is the best type of society, and what is the best way to run such society? So he says human beings, for their perfection, they have to live together. Yeah. So many Muslim philosophers say al-insan madaniyun bit-ta'ab. By nature or by needs, we need to live together. So we form human societies. And if these societies move towards happiness and felicity, this is Madinah Fadila. But sometimes they are confused. Instead of moving towards the real happiness and felicity, they go for wrong things. So we have Madinah Ghayr Fadila. It's not virtuous. It's non-virtuous. Non-virtuous then can be Madinah Jahile, Madinah Fasiqe, Madinah Dhale. So there are different types of non-virtuous society. He says, Al-Madinatul Fadila is like one healthy body. Every organ in the body works well under one leadership, and they collaborate together. What is the head for body is like a leader for the society. So the leader of Madinatul Fadila is the Prophet, because he is the one who has very large capacity and virtues that are needed for leadership. He has highest levels of rationality, and he can understand what are the real interests of people based on Sharia. He can introduce laws and regulations that would help people to achieve their felicity. So Prophet in his time was a muallim, a teacher, and also head of Madinatul Fadila. After this, then his successors would take over, and he says, when the leaders don't have that wisdom and hikmah which is needed, we will go away from Madinatul Fadila. So after the Prophet and Imams, those who have wisdom and hikmah should be in charge. This is about Farabi. Then we have a discussion about history, very brief history of the science of philosophy in Shia Islam. You see pictures of some of the works of Farabi. Inshallah, in the next session we will have a brief introduction to the history of philosophy in Shia and different phases of that. And then inshallah we will talk about Sheikh Saduq Rizwanullah Ta'ala alayh and his trips, and then Sheikh Mufid. Inshallah we will talk about him. And then we will talk about different phases of Shia fiqh. The first phase, the second phase, the third, the fourth, inshallah, up to the 15th century. So, inshallah, we will discuss these things gradually. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.